The hotel room, whispered with quiet, bathed in the gentle glow of the bedside lamp. Anya Petrova sat perched on the edge of the bed, her gaze locked on her reflection in the mirror across the room. A pristine white silk robe flowed over her shoulders, and her long, fiery auburn hair cascaded down her back in soft waves. Her wedding dress, a vision of lace and dreams, hung undisturbed within its protective garment bag in the closet. It was the eve of her wedding, a night she had anticipated for what felt like an eternity. Yet, a disquieting unease lingered within her. Her phone vibrated on the nightstand, and she glanced at a message from her fiancé, Damien Stone. He'd been acting strangely all week, elusive, secretive, and constantly surrounded by his boisterous groomsmen. Anya had attributed it to pre-wedding jitters, but the message on the screen gave her pause. "Stay put in the room. I'm sending a surprise." No emoji, no endearment, just that. Anya stared at the message, debating whether to respond, but ultimately decided against it. She didn't want to read too much into it. Perhaps it was a sweet gesture. Damien had always been one for grand gestures. Intimate dinners, spontaneous getaways, even a moonlit serenade once. But lately he seemed like a stranger, a far cry from the man who used to cradle her face in his hands and whisper that she was his everything. A sharp knock at the door startled her from her thoughts. 3 distinct raps. She hesitated, glancing at the clock. Almost 11 p.m., an odd hour for a room service surprise. "Who is it?" she asked, her voice slightly trembling. Silence. Her instincts screamed at her not to open the door, but a morbid curiosity gnawed at her. She peered through the peephole and saw 3 imposing men in black suits standing silently in the hallway. A chill snaked down her spine. None of them looked familiar. "Can I help you?" she repeated through the door, her voice firmer this time. "We're here for you, Anya," one of them stated calmly. "Damien sent us." Her hand froze on the doorknob. Her first impulse was to call Damien, but her phone displayed no service. She tried to back away, but her legs felt like lead. The man spoke again, his tone softer, almost coaxing. "It's all right. He simply wanted us to deliver something. A message of sorts." She opened the door a crack, the chain still securely fastened. "What kind of message?" The tallest man leaned in slightly. "He's reconsidering everything." Anya's heart plummeted. "What do you mean?" "He wants to put something to the test before tomorrow." She slammed the door shut, locking it with a trembling hand. She backed away, her mind reeling. What was this? Some twisted prank? A cruel game? She was done playing. Anya grabbed her phone again, determined to call her maid of honor, Clara, but the signal remained stubbornly absent. Even the Wi-Fi had mysteriously disconnected. Panic began to constrict her chest. Another knock, softer now, almost pleading. "Please, open the door. We're not here to harm you." She retreated into the bathroom and locked herself in, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Her mind raced, conjuring every possible scenario. Had Damien completely lost his mind, or were these men imposters? She was trapped, with no way of knowing. She felt utterly alone, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. After what seemed like an eternity, the knocking ceased. She waited, straining to hear any footsteps or voices, but silence reigned. Cautiously, she emerged from the bathroom. The door was still intact. She tiptoed over and peered through the peephole again. The hallway was deserted. A shaky sigh of relief escaped her lips. Maybe they were gone. Maybe it was all a bizarre prank. She would confront Damien in the morning and demand answers. But as she turned around, her breath hitched in her throat. The men were inside the room. The 3 of them stood silently, having gained entry while she was hidden. She hadn't heard the lock click. She hadn't heard anything. "Don't be frightened," the shortest one said, his hands held up in a gesture of peace. "We only want to talk." "How did you get in here?" she demanded, backing toward the desk. "We're not strangers to Damien," another replied. "He asked us to be here. He needed to know if you're truly ready." "Ready for what?" she cried, her voice cracking. "Marriage?" The first man nodded. "Love isn't about bouquets and melodies. It's about resilience, fidelity, secrets. He's gauging whether you'll confront adversity or succumb to it." Anya shook her head, her eyes wide with disbelief. "This is insane. You're insane. Get out of my room." The third man, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward and placed a small, ominous envelope on the table. "Inside is a question. You have until sunrise to answer it." Then, without another word, they slipped out of the room as silently and swiftly as they had appeared, leaving Anya frozen in place. She didn't dare touch the envelope right away. Hours crawled by as she sat on the floor, her eyes fixed on it as if it were a ticking time bomb. When the first tendrils of dawn finally peeked through the curtains, she rose and picked up the envelope. With trembling hands, she opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, bearing a chilling question of 7 words. Would you still marry him, knowing everything? That was it. No signature, no context, no explanation. She stared at the question, the words echoing in her mind, knowing everything. What did that cryptic phrase imply? What secrets was she unaware of? Her mind raced back through the past few months, replaying missed calls, unexplained business trips, and those tense arguments that he had dismissed with vague excuses. She had attributed them to the usual pre-wedding stress, but now, she wasn't so sure. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Anya made a life-altering decision. She dressed, packed her bag, and left the hotel room, leaving the untouched wedding dress behind. Damien called around 8 a.m. This time, the call connected. She answered, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "Where are you?" he asked, his voice laced with urgency. "I left," she stated simply. Silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken words. "You got my message?" "I got more than just a message," she replied quietly. "Why would you send 3 strangers to my room? Why that loaded question?" He sighed, a sound of weary resignation. "Because I needed to know if you'd fight for us, if you'd trust me, even when things got murky, when shadows lurked." "You think love is a test?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. "No, I think it's a battlefield," he countered. "You're either by my side, or you're not. There's no middle ground." A hollow laugh escaped Anya. "Then you've already lost me, Damien. Not because I'm afraid of the darkness, but because you tried to force me into it. You've already failed the test, and you know what? So have I." There was nothing left to salvage. She ended the call and stepped out into the awakening city. Her future was a blank canvas, unwritten and uncertain, but for the first time in days, she felt a fragile sense of control, a glimmer of hope amidst the wreckage. Later that day, Clara met her at a cozy diner on the outskirts of town. Anya recounted the harrowing events of the previous night, and Clara listened without interruption or judgment. When Anya finished, Clara reached across the table and took her hand, her gaze filled with warmth and admiration. "You were incredibly brave, Anya. You didn't run from love. You ran from manipulation. You chose yourself." That night, Anya booked a flight to Colorado to visit her sister and heal her wounded spirit. She resolved to move forward, to embrace the unknown, and to never look back at what might have been. She knew now that love should feel like a sanctuary, not a battleground, like a safe harbor, not a storm. Years later, Anya met someone new, someone who didn't resort to cryptic messages or shadowy figures to test her devotion. His name was Matthew, a kind and steadfast man who showed her that real love is built on unwavering trust, mutual respect, and open communication. They exchanged vows in a charming garden ceremony surrounded by loved ones. There was no drama, no tests, no manipulation, only pure, unadulterated joy. And Anya never forgot that surreal night before the wedding that never was. Not because of the fear it had instilled, but because it had taught her a valuable lesson: to walk away from anything or anyone that demanded she question her worth. Because true love should feel like serenity, not a trial you didn't sign up for.